Hello and welcome to attempt 3, rather appropriately, to try and record this. Now, sometimes as a historian, you get rather fun things sent to you. You get questions posed. You get asked, what's your opinion on something? Or you get information given to you. In this case, I have been sent a picture by a trusted source, apparently from a very trusted source. A picture which I'm not allowed to share because I don't have permission to. Again, not unusual. But which is a picture of a triple gun turret, which looks like it's got 14-inch guns in, which I can't tell from the clothing. There isn't anything really noticeable that says 1920s or 1910s. I can't get and pick out any of the faces in it, so I can't map it down that way. And I said I can't share it, so I can't prove myself by going, here's the picture, look at it. Not able to do that. So it's entirely possibly a wide goose case. But it's got one word, Vickers. And it's got one number on it. 1909. Now, I looked for a slant or a comma to see if it was 19th of September. Wasn't. There's nothing there. There's no indentation. There's nothing. And they're all there. The numbers are close enough together. It is one set, so it does look like it's a year. But this started me off thinking. This is what the Royal Navy's building at the time. The Orion class and then the King George V class, which are basically... They are the original super dreadnoughts. I know we all think of the Queen Elizabeth as super dreadnoughts, but bear with me. When these first came out, 13.5-inch guns. 10-gun broadside versus an 8-12-gun broadside. 12-inch, 8 to 12-inch gun broadside of the dreadnoughts. These were considered the super battleships. So, this video is going to broadly split into 3 parts. One part is going to be me trying something I've never done before, which is to show you a live stream recapture of me playing Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts and looking at what I'm looking at there. It's going to attempt to show you exactly what I'm looking at when I'm designing and why I'm going to explain why I've made decisions I've made. Then we're going to discuss the design and some of the options that come off of it. And then I'm going to get into a section where I'm going to be asking you questions, because my idea is I'm going to turn this into a bit of a crowdsourcing exercise. And I know which archives I'm going to go to look at to try and track this down to see if I can sustain it. And I've got plans. And I do plan on trying to drag Monsieur Drakenfell with me for them, because I want a research buddy. I've spent years writing this and the thesis before it. Archive researching alone. I now have a buddy who's as obsessed with it as I am and has enough of a similar background in that we both understand the engineering side of it to a large extent, that we can have fun going into the archives. So, I wonder if I can get a rental agreement with Mrs. Drac out there that I just sort of pain chocolate or something. Leaving that to one side. So, and I'm hoping Ultimate Dreadnoughts don't mind me using the game for this. I don't think they will, but fingers crossed. So, here is my design, and isn't she gorgeous? Now, the thing is, it's a little bit juddery, and that's probably because I'm doing this on a laptop, as I still don't have a tower set up. but I wanted to show it to you from the angles. And I hope you can hear my voice properly the whole way through. And if I take it nice and slowly. Yeah. Now, I have to admit, I was planning a battle to show you of 8 of these versus 3 Spanish battleships. We'll see what we can do. You won't see much of battle. I'm going to mainly show you the sailing at sea part of it. But, yeah. It should be good, he says. It should be good. And I do like the design of this game. It has got a lot of interesting, cool stuff in it that really does help. And really does make it interesting. So we have 2 divisions. I'm going to put them, because I'm going to be wandering around showing to you, I'm putting them both under AI control, which is fairly decent. And again, this is what they look like at sea. Look at these ships. Aren't they gorgeous? And yes, you're right. There are 8 of them. Oh, they look beautiful. They are fast. Well, when I say fast, they've got a top speed of 21 knots, this particular design has. So I've gone for the same speed as the regular ones. But I've done earlier other versions which have 24 knot speeds. And that's actually the stats I'm going to give you is for the one with the 24 knot speed. Because my finger is, if you go for a treble turret arrangement and this sort of thing, you might also go for a higher speed, which they were looking at. After all, the Queen Elizabeth's come into existence. And there you go. Now, if you want to say, oh, surely this should be on 60 frames per second. I was on 60 frames per second. That killed the computer. So I put this down to 30 frames per second. So I'm sorry if that's not that good, but there you go. There are these ships, and there you go, firing away. I love the graphics in this game. And basically, this on HMS Colossus is the idea. And I've taken the F and various other F3 and various other designs into account. I've also taken into account the fact that the first designs for this sort of ship are discussed in the Naval Constructors course that graduates in 1907. The class includes Sir Stanley Goodall. So, yeah. There is a history there. And there are some gorgeous ships. Sorry, I keep wandering off. So, I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope that worked well. Anyway, that's an example of the ships at sea. They're all done with relevant technology. They're done with technology. I have to admit, the only thing is I had to move it to 1916 to be able to get the triple turret on the game. But everything else is really appropriate to the technology that's put into these. And this is one of the bigger variants. And as you can see, 27 knot speed. I did a lot of playing around with the various variants. I've done several variants. The one you saw on the screen was the 21 knot version. This is the 27 knot version. And it's bigger. But it's also very well armed. And this is the 24 knot version, which is my favorite in the end. And my theory in the end was that if they did this, that a 24 knot ship is what would emerge. And I was sort of using as the Orions and the Queen Elizabeth as my guidance. So instead of going for a King George V, which then jumps into sort of the Queen Elizabeth class and the Iron Duke class, I was sort of thinking, right then, what can we do? And I suppose really this would be another option, perhaps for the Iron Dukes or for the King George V's. But really, my idea, honestly, was looking at it going, let's say I have this triple turret. Let's say it works and I decide to implement it. When do I implement it? It's either going to be the King George. It's either going to be the Iron Dukes or it's going to be the King George V's. I'm reckoning as earlier I'd go for the King George V's. If I have a triple turret, though, I might change my idea in terms of guns. And there's a reasoning for this. Okay. So let me start explaining some maths. It's the maths of procurement. I can procure, for the same amount of time and complexity, 6 twin turrets for the same amount of time as 5 triple turrets, let's say. Roughly. A 9 versus a 10-gun broadside is not enough. I'm going to worry about it too much. So, my options are 5 twin turrets or 3 triple turrets. Now, let's say I want to equip a 8 ship formation, a standard battle squadron. Well, that's going to require 40 twin turrets. It's going to require 24 triple turrets. So, let's say I build 42 twin turrets. I can build in a fixed amount of time. That's going to give me 8 battleships and a couple of monitors. Don't forget the couple of monitors. They're cute. But if I'm building triple turrets, well, I will get 35 of those. Because for every 6, I get 5. Which means I can equip 11 battleships and 2 monitors. My 2 monitors now have a third gun, which makes salvo firing and damage they're likely to cause therein slightly more interesting. My 11 battleships carry 99 guns across 11 hulls. My twin turret battleships carry 80 guns across 8 hulls. So whilst they individually have a 1 gun per vessel more, they actually have less firepower than the whole fleet I could put together. And this is where the Royal Navy's mathematics starts to come in, because the Royal Navy is always thinking in terms of fleet output. Roughly 170 meters long. Well, this is for the 24 knot version. And it came in at roughly 35,000 tons full displacement, but that's on the game and using game metrics, where you can do 11,408 kilometers or 6,159 miles at 24 knots. Whereas in real life, Orion is designed for 6,730 nautical miles at 10 knots. There's a slight difference in the amount of fuel you need to carry. I'm not going to go for quite a third amount of the fuel that reduces by a third, but I will say that dropping it down to 16 knots and 151 nautical miles dropped the weight by roughly 1,108 tons. Quite a lot. I would reckon myself the design is probably going to would probably come within the region of about 28, 29, possibly 30,000 tons displacement if you built it as they would have built it now. 50,000 shaft horsepower is what I've got for, again, for the 24 knot design with that amount of fuel, etc. But it could actually be less. Again, that's not though abnormal for the time. Orion's had 27,000 shaft horsepower. Queen Elizabeth's 70,000 shaft horsepower. There's a difference. The Orion's 18 boilers. The Queen Elizabeth's 24. Complement in wartime, 1,069 to 1,298, depending on the standard that you pick in the game again. And if you consider real life, with the complement in 1917 is roughly 1,107, I would say that's not that bad. Okay, that's comparable. Also, this is designed with all the command and control, sighting stuff designed in from the beginning. All the radio technology, all the joyous equipment you can think of, basically, that's appropriate to the time, is designed in. Of course, not radar. There's also a slight difference in the gun fit, because this is 3 triple 14-inch, because the game doesn't have 13.5-inch, so I went for 14 as the ones. This is 10 13.5-inch guns. This has 6 triple 4-inch mounts. This has 16 single 4-inch guns, so 18 versus 16. And 3 single 2-inch guns, because I fancy some AA fit. And 2 single 18-inch torpedo tubes versus 3 21-inch torpedo tubes. Something I had an interesting conversation with. Slightly thicker armor on a lot of things, including, although it doesn't actually have that much armor on the conning tower, because I don't like armor on the conning tower and I consider it a waste. But at the time, if I was being 100% accurate, they probably would have put some armor in on the conning tower. But hey. So, now we get into the real meat and bones of this video. What is this for? Why would they do this? Why didn't they do this? Well, for starters, if you go for 3 treble turrets rather than 5 twin turrets, you're A, dropping a gun, but B, you've also meant that if your single turret gets hit, you're down 20%, you're down 33% of your firepower instead of 20% of your firepower. You lose 2 guns in a 5-gun ship, you're down to an 8-gun broadside. You're still at the same broadside level of a dreadnought. You lose 3 in one of these ships, you're down to 6. Okay. It also looks kind of radical. I do admit that. There was part of me which was seriously tempted to just go with the 4 trebles approach, but I thought that's going to be a big jump. And you might well have seen that with the Queen Elizabeth class. Honestly, I could see a world where they produce trebles, and they produce 9s for the king for this class, and they produce 9s for the next class, and then for the when they're jumping up to the 15-inch guns, they go, yeah, we have 12. Because the Queen Elizabeth was supposed to be best of the best. This hull low and profile does offer advantages, and it's not advantages which the British have not been considering already. That is the point. The G3s, the M3s, they don't come from nowhere. They're being considered long before the treaties. Yes, you can see the Nelson class is an adapted version of them for the sake of the treaty. but the idea has been in the consideration for a while before the treaty. And they are certainly good-looking ships. But what they also are is a solution to another problem. Jutland, where you don't have to present your broadside to the enemy in order to fire at them and concentrate your fire. Again, there was an interesting part of me which was considering stepping up all three, so all three could fire perfectly forward. But I thought, no, I'll go with the F3 design, because that was around for a while, and that did allow all three to fire forward, and that was something which I think would have been a factor. Because Jutland, if instead of having to turn away to avoid the torpedoes, you could turn towards the enemy, keep firing, keep pursuing, and still present a narrower profile to the sort of torpedoes coming towards you, that could have really changed things. And yes, that's reading through history, but that's not something which the British had not conceived of before, long before time before World War One. If you look at some of the early analysis of what to do when facing a torpedo attack, it is turn and charge. It's not go away, it's turn and charge towards. Because it's felt that if you've got enough of a bow wave and enough bow wave, you could actually throw a torpedo coming towards you off, and you get close to the enemy, so you engage them with your guns. It's an interesting idea. And this whole thing is a rather interesting idea. So this sort of brings me to the discussion point of explaining the questions. So first question is, what do you think of this idea? What do you think? What do you think if there had been such a thing? If there is a triple turret, and there's sort of say, if there has been, as I said, all I've got is a photo I'm not allowed to show with a one word and 1 year on it, as I'm interpreting it. Who knows? The person who was compiling it didn't do anything with it. So perhaps they were never able to back it up either. Perhaps all they've had is this mystery. And now the mystery is being passed on to me in a way. But I want to see where it goes. What do you think about A, the concept of triple turret? B, what do you think about that as an idea? Do you think it was possible? Have you heard any information about it? Have you seen or discussed or heard emotion around? This is one of the things I'm asking. Why I'm asking, because I'm sort of crowdsourcing some of the research. I know which archives I'm going to go check. I'm going to go check the archives which has the Vickers records in. I'm going to go check the archives which have this historian's research in. And I'm going to go check the archives which sometimes get some of the Vickers testing ground research in, some of their information in. And of course, I'm going to check the National Archives. Because I know what I'm looking for to an extent. And when you're looking for it, you might be able to find it. This is one of the earlier tests of the larger one versus the Kaiserlich Marine. The larger one I decided to outfit with 4 treble 6-inch guns as its secondaries. They proved mean. Second question is, what do you think of my idea for the design? Because I think I'm tempted. Because when they do start they are officially looking at treble turrets, and we know in time like that, they start looking at a 3 turret arrangement, and they have them all forward or banked in. that does seem to me like an option. It does seem to me like an option. But what do you think the design would? Do you think the Royal Navy would have gone for the 15 gun or the 12 or the 13 gun formation? What do you think they would have done with them? Or even, I suppose, conceivably the 12 gun formation. And I'd certainly see the second 12 gun formation. There's the 4 trebles approach, and there's also the 3 twins and 2 trebles approach, where you have the trebles super firing over the doubles. We can all hope no one does that, but you know, someone could have had a brainwave. And the final question. So we've got a final question. I will repeat these. Is how do you think it would have changed things if the Royal Navy had? Now, I did also say I was going to say why I don't think they did, and I think if anything was due to conservatism. It was a simple thing of that, what I've earlier mentioned, the 20% versus 33% chance. And I'm also presuming there were some other problems with it. There might have been some problems with getting the design off the ground, or just the fact is that they had twin design up working fine and it was cheap and cheerful and worked. And they could just keep iterating on that, and that was doing fine. But it's an interesting what if and an interesting analysis. It's also an interesting analysis because if you've got a treble 13.5 inch and you decide you want to change to 15-inch guns, then you can probably fit in a double 15-inch in that hole. Not too much difficulty. If it was Vickers selling it, you can probably guarantee they were selling you a triple 14-inch version, in which case you can definitely fit a 13.5-inch gun in there if you want to. Or you could get a very different scenario. You could get the Royal Navy jumping to treble 13 and 14-inch. In which case, the Queen Elizabeth class would probably be a 16-inch gun ship, but we'll leave that to one side. It's one of those interesting. Oh, they might be 15-inch, I suppose, but then we'd have had 13.5, 14, and 15-inch in service. That would have been logistically confusing. There's also, in the weight differences, there is a difference between a 13.5-inch ship and a 14-inch ship. And that sounds like it's going to be nothing, but then you times it over by several hundred shells, each which are half an inch greater in diameter than the others. And you suddenly realize it has the storage implications and size of ship and mass of the equipment, because the 14-inch shell is that much heavier to maneuver than the 13.5-inch shell, so it requires that much more, that much stronger equipment and that much stronger lifts and all those. So everything has an impact on the weight. So what were those 3 questions again? First one: have you heard, seen anything, or spotted anything in your travels which might give this credence and might make you might be able to give me some information, tell me where to go hunting, some tips. Second question: what do you think of the design I've chosen? Do you agree with it? Do you think they'd have done something differently? Up to you. And third question, and this is more morally, what impacts do you think such a change would have had? I find it really cool to consider these things, mainly because by looking at decisions which weren't made, you learn more about the decisions that were made, in my opinion. Anyway, it is now kind of late for me. I'm going to finish this off now and say thank you very much. Hope you've enjoyed it, and hope you've enjoyed the run of sort of random extra videos I've thrown in over the Christmas New Year period, and I'm still continuing to throw in over the Christmas New Year period, just to give you some extra things to see, because I know people are lonely at this time of year, and I know some people are not lonely at this time of year but still would like the distraction. So I'm trying to be of help, especially as I'm covering the Academic Skills Centre for my university over the Christmas period. They offered extra money. I am mercenary on this front, and starting writing my second book. So, sitting in my office, I might record a video every now and again for you guys. Anyway, looking forward to the 30th of December, which is the Morocco crisis. Take care. Have a nice day, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And thank you again for watching.